Madam Chair. Sue Carlton. Present. Luke Charbonneau. Luke Charbonneau. Luke Charbonneau. Brian Milne. Brian Milne. Kevin Eccles.
Counted for.
Chris Peabody. Chris Peabody. Chris Peabody. Sue Patterson.
Present.
Helen Claire Tingley.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome, Kalisa.
Kenneth Craig.
Present.
Nick Saunders. Nick Saunders. Nick Saunders. Chad Richards.
I am here and welcome, Kalisa.
Beverly Wilkins.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the agenda today? I would note that Warden Milne has just joined us online. Welcome, Brian.
Morning, all.
Seeing no amendments, I will read the recommendation that the agenda be approved by the Board of Health as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Bev and Sue, is there any discussion? All in favor? Carried. If there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest, you may declare at any time here at the meeting should one arise. Going to adoption of the minutes, we have minutes from Friday, August 23rd, 2024, and Tuesday, September 10th, 2024, the executive committee meeting. The recommendation is that the minutes be approved by the Board of Health as presented. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Kevin and Ken, is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. We are moving right on to other business, which is the retirement recognition letter. So I think we're waiting for Fiona to join us. Read this. No, you don't miss it. Okay. Morning, Fiona. Hello. Hello.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Congratulations. So, this in here and we will present this to you. So letter thanking you and a gift. Thank you very much and of all your years of support for the health unit. Thank you.
For sure.
Whether you're talking about picture now or real.
Great.
Thank you.
Speech, 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 speech. You don't get away free that easily.
Thank you. Yeah, so after 19 years here, it's been a pleasure to serve the people of Gray and Bruce and mostly with vaccines and then lots of work with COVID. It's been great. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Ever want to know anything about the Mennonite and Amish round? Give me a shout.
Wonderful.
Congratulations.
And we don't have Nick on. I think I'd like to defer item 7.2 until Nick gets on because we were asking him to speak to that part. So we will move on to section 8.1.1 correspondence from the Alpha letter, Ontario protecting communities and supporting addiction recovery with new treatment funds.
Madam Chair, there is one correspondence on the list. It's the letter mentioned from the Alpha, the Association of Public Agencies, to the Ministry of Health for Ontario. And in summary, the letter is supportive of the Heart and Hubs approach that the province is proposing looking forward. However, we're asking for a balanced approach where harm reduction is included as part of the full spectrum of care and not just to emphasize on prevention, rather on the whole spectrum. And the recommendation that I'm shared to endorse, harm reduction has been the core of public health for the past few years. Personally and professionally, I am very supportive of prevention as a first step, and harm reduction has always been called secondary prevention. And to include both of them is reasonable. To emphasize on the prevention, as the province has plans to proceed is my first choice. But again, it seems to be very reasonable to endorse a holistic approach to it.
Thank you. So do we need a motion to endorse then? Or we're just accepting those signs?
We can accept it, or we can endorse it and have a motion for it.
Okay, so we should have a motion to endorse that letter. Could I have that?
sure. For sure.
Okay, moved by Deb. I'm gonna look online for a seconder. Brian? And is there any discussion or comments to be made on this? Kevin?
So the new hub treatment center type thing, is that what we've seen in Grey County with the treatment center up at that the county has endorsed?
Field school?
Yes, thank you. I knew it was a school. I didn't know the name. Yeah, I've been kicked out of too many schools, but I remember all the names.
Through the Madam Chair, not exactly, no. There has been the movement in the province for the past number of years to have safe consumption site or safe supply. Those are harm reduction. The hard treatment is more of focus on recovery and rehab from drug use.
Yes.
And the request in the letter is to have a component of harm reduction with it. In Grey Bruce, we never had a safe supply site or safe consumption site for many reasons, the geography of it and the number of people we use. It's not as a big city. So these approaches most likely are not applicable to Grey Bruce. However, it is of the interest of the sector in general. In Grey Bruce, we have the SOS, which is outreach that provide many services and provide even the recovery and addiction and the way to connect with primary care. So I feel very comfortable to say we have the design that works best for us, and too much of it is not enough because obviously it's a crisis that's affecting the public the most at this point. So I'm just correcting myself that it's the perfect design for us, but we need to do more of it as well.
Okay.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions?
I'll just make a small comment. I went for a tour when the open house was on, and if you have a moment to go, take about a half an hour, because the implications are that there are many people at present that are seeing Owen Sound as a beacon of a new template, is what I sense. So it'll have to be, I presume, there'll be a bit of a gateway on it at the same time. So I think that we need to be cognizant of that, because the principle of treatment is excellent. They must consent to the idea that they really are sincere in being healed, which is hallelujah, and I hope it happens. And I will be optimistic, because there's a lot of individuals that have the energy to make it happen. So I hope and pray for it, may I use the word, but I hope that it will be a real solution. So bravo to what they are doing here.
Thank you.
Good.
Seeing no further comments, I will call the vote. All in favor? Oh, Helen Claire, are you voting or had comments?
I did just want to add a comment, if I may, Madam Chair. I'm very seized with this. Some members around the table will know that this is a cause close to my heart, and I am very happy to see the province moving forward, looking at the more of the upstream concerns and the wraparound care. The idea of safer supply is one small aspect that was taken from the Portugal model. And really, it's the entire Portugal model which is successful. To just take bits of it and say the Portugal model is great and then just take one small piece out of it. I mean, I could go on, and of course I won't, but I just wanted to say, you know, I'm really happy, and I think this is a good decision by the province to move forward. And that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. I see no other comments. I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. And we are then moving on to media releases. And I think I'm turning this over to Denise.
Thank you,
Go
Madam
ahead.
Chair. And through you, there are 9 media releases on this month's agenda. On August 19th, following significant rainfall in Grey Bruce, Public Health issued a media release to remind residents that it's not advisable to swim at any beach within 48 hours of heavy rain or while the water remains unusually cloudy. Doing so could pose a risk to human health, as rain and winds can have a significant impact on beach water quality. And later in the summer, on August 29th, Public Health did have to post the Southampton beach is unsafe for swimming after water sampling results show bacterial levels exceeding Ontario Ministry of Health standards. A media release was issued about the beach posting, and a subsequent release went out on September 3rd to advise the public that the no swim advisory had been lifted. Also in August, Public Health issued media releases on a potential rabies exposure investigation, a series of opioid poisonings, and the discovery of a crow in Grey Bruce that later tested positive for West Nile virus. And finally, on September 5th, Public Health issued a media release about the grand opening of the new permanent dental clinic in Walkerton. This release was accompanied by photos of the chair and members of the Board of Health cutting a ribbon to officially open the new space, which will serve clients enrolled in the Healthy Smiles Ontario and Ontario Seniors Dental Care Program. And that concludes the media release portion of this meeting.
Thank you, Denise. Are there any questions or comments from anyone about any of the media releases? Ken?
It's, through you, Madam Chair, it is not on the list and I'm not expecting an answer, report or anything today. Could we include on the agenda for next time, just, like we've got the report about the crow having, West Nile virus, more reports on, recent, national media regarding avian flu. And I'm wondering just if there is a presence or a strategy in the event that, I don't want the information today. It's just what is, Grey Bruce Public Health? And, you know, it's not really a media report, but it's kind of connected to the transition of weird things in the air these days.
Okay, we will make note of that.
Madam Chair, yeah, we definitely have a schedule for the year, and on it, there is the same topic in 2 spots, one of them in emergency response and the other one in infectious disease. We can shuffle things around to make sure that it will be given answer next month. Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, the recommendation is that the correspondence be received by the Board of Health for endorsement and that the media releases be received by the Board of Health for information. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? And Chad? Is there any further discussion? I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. And I will turn it over to Dr. Era for medical officer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So there are 4 items, 2 of them are standing. The first one, the opiate situation, there is a good news update to share with the board. The SOS program that was designed by Dr. Zayed and the team here and implemented and developed by all partners in Grey Bruce, including the Grey County as a major force to push that program, CHMA, Bright Shores, United Way. This initiative has won the Ontario Health System Quality and Innovation Award last evening. It's a very competitive work and their process. Was one of our program was one of the 5, and yesterday was the exact winner of this innovation. And again, congratulations to the Great Bruce team in general, the Great County paramedics played an indispensable role in this. And again, it's an example where public health does its work best when it mobilizes partners to move the initiatives. So again, it's great news for everybody in Great Bruce.
If I could just add to that, so this will probably come out to everybody today, but thousands of nominations were received, 3 were shortlisted, and SOS won the award, so that's pretty impressive. And,
If I may, thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to congratulate Grey County for like the paramedic work and that. And I just want to confirm, because I don't know the answer, are the Bruce County paramedics involved in that program to the same extent that Grey County is, or are we on par? Are we lagging? Have we embraced or engaged in that system the same, or is it outside the scope of what Bruce County paramedics have been doing?
So when we through you and we decided for both Grey and Bruce, and there are components of the program in both.
Okay.
The involvement and how much people work and align with different partners is a bit different between the 2 counties. You can appreciate from our previous discussions, opioid is a very complex problem and has many facets, whether it's you're talking about primary care or pharmacies, hospitals, municipalities. So the level of involvement is high for both counties, but I do believe in Grey has been more effort to actually make it happen as a one program versus in Bruce. All the same groups are working on the same issue, but maybe not in the same line.
Okay, thank you.
And I may add, Madam Chair, there are certain organizations that are across the board in both. So again, the work that's done, it's not just Grey Bruce, but the involvement is a bit slightly different.
Welcome, Chris, and I'll just note that we are on the second item of the medical officer health update at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The second item is still standing, no update compared to last time about the development of the new standards and strengthening public health. The third and fourth item, Madam Chair, I'm going to delegate the speaking to the report to Andy Andrew Pollen, the manager for environmental health, the new manager, leading the operations.
Welcome, Andrew. I'll turn it over to you now.
Thank you, Better, and thank you, Madam Chair. So starting with the food safety and safe water program. The report does provide an overview for both of these programs. They represent 2 different of the Ontario Public Health Standards, and really the key highlights are that the Program for Public Health develops and provides the local components of the food safety network. Obviously, food safety starts at the farm and is continued through multiple different agencies at provincial, national, even international levels. But locally, we are responsible for food safety inspections, complaint response, and so on. So in 2023, public health inspectors conducted 401 inspections at high-risk premises, 638 inspections at moderate risk, and also additional inspections at low and ultra-low premises as a result of complaints and other factors. The Safe Water Programme focuses on preventing and reducing waterborne illness, and that in itself is then divided into different areas. So we have both the recreational water component, and representative of that is the PHI's conducted inspections, 42 inspections of Class A pools, 167 Class B, and then additional inspections of Class C facilities, spas, and so on. And then, of course, as we heard with the media releases last month, also Beach Safety falls into that program as well. The other component for Safe Water is the drinking water program. We have fairly close ties there with the Ministry of Environment's regulated piece, which is the large water systems, such as municipal water systems. We do have a role there in terms of responding to adverse water and giving advice to operators. However, our main focus there is on what's called the small drinking water systems, of which we have quite a number through Graham Bruce, and we are the primary regulators for those systems and inspect those, as well as providing general advice and guidance if there's adverse incidents and so on. So both the food safety and safe water programs support the health of residents and visitors to Grey Bruce, and we continue to strive to not only meet the standards, of course, but to further reduce the burden of disease and injury through those two factors. Move on to.
So if we, excuse me, if we just stop and see if there's any questions or comments from anyone on that report, before we go through. Kevin.
There's something I always wondered, waterborne illnesses and whatnot. Obviously, we do a lot of inspections on the beaches and whatnot. How's that coordinated with the conservation authorities?
So the beaches, the coordination is more with the beach operators, so with the municipalities, than it is with conservation area. We can reach out. So, for example, this year with the postings at Southampton, we did reach out and have conversations with conservation area to try and get a better handle on what their sampling was showing, because they sample the rivers, which is obviously something outside.
Well, they also sampled the lake as well too.
So we were trying to get a little bit more information to be able to provide to the municipality to get a sort of better overview. But that's not sort of a regular part of the program. That was really done as a response to that situation.
So on the river, on the beaches, campgrounds that are on rivers, all that waterborne incidents, they're left with the conservation. Rivers Health doesn't get involved.
Right. So the beaches that we sample at are defined by the standard and protocols. So they are municipally owned. They are, I guess, what you would think of as the larger beaches. So there's certain sort of factors that have to be in place. So, I mean, of course, we do know that people access recreational water in, especially somewhere like Grey Bruce, a lot more than just those public beaches. You can access water almost anywhere, really. But the beach program really focuses on those primary public beaches.
Well, not as much in West Grey, because we got most of the bridges closed, so you can't get to the river from there. I just had to get that one.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I may, this discussion happened before in different ways, and we looked locally to pilot a new initiative that has beaches through drones. And that would be a process that would require comparing the inspection that we did over the years and with the new method of inspection, and comparing if the sampling, the process, the cost, and the outcome. If there so this was discussed, and we decided as management, now that didn't come to the board at the time before we formalized it, I mentioned to the board, sorry, but it was not formalized as a pilot before the pandemic. And there are many barriers to proceed with something as revolutionary or innovative. One of them was we connected with Public Health Ontario to run the study and have an ethics approval. And there are many considerations related to unions and jobs and to the ministry and regulations. And we are ready to take over all these challenges and iron it out, because you can appreciate that barrier you mentioned, roads are not closed, or the sample itself, you have to go in the beach to a depth of 1 meter and take a sample with no murky water, which means the person has to stand there. Much time to drive from 1 kilometer to the other. And we can program a drone to fly and take these samples at night. And there is regulations related to aviation. And again, all these things are challenges that are not prohibited. But the pandemic was in place, so we put this whole thing on the side. And hopefully in the near future, you would, as a board, you would hear about something that's a bit more polished than this. And hopefully the system will have been matured enough for us to pilot something like this. Just wanted to mention it there. Chair.
Ken, I think you have.
I did. Thank you, Madam Chair. Two questions that I had sent to Dr. Ayer, but one, like, as soon as somebody starts talking, there's another question. So the municipalities have definitions for small drinking water systems, and I think they're like, that's at 5 customers or greater. I'm not sure, something like that. So when you say public health monitors small drinking water systems, do you mean 4 and under that are joint, or like I know that you provide it for singles, but a system is different than just a private well. And I just wanted clarity on that, whether, because there's different regulatory bodies watching municipal water systems that are small, but they're like our community in Armo, you know, there's 12 or 15 customers on it. So it's small for us, but is that the same definition that you're using, or is it private systems that are not municipally regulated?
So the word small, there is a bit of a misnomer, to be honest. The definitions are found in the Safe Drinking Water Act and the 2 different regulations. So Regulation 170 are the systems that the Ministry of Environment regulates, and those are typically the municipal systems. What's called small drinking water systems are regulated by Regulation 390, and that's ours. The definitions are laid out. They, interestingly, given the title, the size of them actually isn't one of the components of the relevant. Yeah. So for instance, if you have year-round residences there, it becomes a ministry regulated one. The typical small drinking water system is something like a restaurant, or perhaps, you know, a church with an active kitchen or something like that. The component of it really is where it's not excluded. So private wells are excluded. This is, we're not talking about people's homes. It doesn't meet the definition of a municipal system, so it's not, you know, a town or a large year-end subdivision. But it is still a public system, and there's further definition as to exactly what that's. Yeah.
If I could interject there, I think 3 systems that would be in charge of Boston and York would be the Durban Community Center, Kimball Community Center, and the Township Office would all be classed as small drinking water systems.
Okay.
But that helps.
So thank you, Madam Chair, and a couple that I've directed to Dr. Ayer for his consideration. You know, as a board, we're supposed to be addressing policies that continue to provide great service for the public, and that's, you know, we're witness to that. But I have this particular interest in the food inspection part of, you know, raised on a farm. I hear the concerns of abattoirs and many others who are subject to federal inspection, provincial inspection, public health inspections. And I'm wondering if there is strategic advantage to working through Alpha or in another initiative based on staff recommendation, of course, about how to, I wonder whether it's best to maintain what we have, or if there's strategic advantages to amending that to establish different or more collaborative roles that will take over all the provincial inspections or whatever it is. I'm wondering if through Dr. Ayer, we could get a sense of the advantages of either maintaining or amending the partnerships that we have there.
You want to take the first step? I think
I can perhaps answer some more, the more technical side of that. So, yeah, obviously, as I mentioned, you know, the food safety is, there's a network there. It's regulated by a lot of different groups. So to use an example, something like an abattoir, we have a lot of businesses like that in Grey Goose, but our component there would only be the retail section. So you can imagine if they had a retail component, a butcher shop, then
The Beefway in Kincardine.
right,
Absolutely.
So we would have that element, but then we don't do behind that then would become like the provincial area. So I guess your question would be, well, can you simplify that? Can you make
That's the
it a
question.
one agency? Yeah. I mean,
Is that legislated or is that historical or what's the?
it's all by legislative definitions.
Okay, that's fine.
But I mean, obviously legislative definitions can change.
Is there an advantage to our provision of public health to advocate for any changes in that regard? Is there wisdom in pursuing that, or is that just a time consuming?
Yeah, through you, Madam Chair, you're overestimating our powers. It's very prescribed as a process, and it's an excellent question because there are different layers to it. Like you look at the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, from the name of the organization, it's Canadian, it's federal, it's under the Ministry of Agriculture. And it has four functions, and one of them is the delivery of inspections. The second one is working with industry to ensure compliance. The third one is investigating outbreaks. And the fourth one is food safety recalls initiation. But all of them are at the provincial level or at the national level or international level. So just more practically to put things on these titles, that's more understood. If we get a report about Listeria infection, we trace it and it traces to Sharma's restaurant. It's local, so it's not inspection from CIFA, because they don't care about it. If there are a number of Listeria infections and they're related to deli food, and deli food is something that's packaged, that came from Manitoba, now it's not even our jurisdiction, it's their jurisdiction, but the system works in a very neat reaction. When we investigate the Listeria, it's gonna be generated on a system in the province, and if there are enough connection between them, a signal will be flagged that it's not Grey Goose, it is London and Grey Goose and different Perth, and all of them have suppliers from a certain place, so they involve the federal level. So back to where the question is, as Grey Goose, we work on what we work on, and all of it is shared appropriately through the province, and from the province can be shared with the federal government. We don't reach out to CIFA directly at all. Rarely ever they reach out to us directly. If there is a problem that is national that happen to have involvement in Grey Goose cases, they might connect and we will work with them very, very well. The regulation part of it and the protocol is very prescribed. Is it optimal? No, like you mentioned, sometimes we inspect 1, 2, 3, and they inspect 2, 3, and 5. And we can simplify it and do it one way, but there is a lot of wisdom in keeping the two systems, because sometimes something is flagged from Manitoba and we will get the notification of it, this item need to be recalled, so we can promote it locally, this is to be recalled. And it's worth mentioning just because there is a lot of trouble around it. CFIA does not do the recall. They work with the industry to do the recall. Just there was a lot of sensitivity in the media about that before, so I want to quantify it. Again, it's an excellent question, and there is some misalignment about the inspections and when they happen and how they happen. Sometimes there is complete disconnect where we don't know they're doing this, and that's what they need to do. But if we need to be involved, they will usually let us involved through the process.
So the second question, Madam Chair, was more for information, like for myself at least, about service provision for our Indigenous communities. there is a unique relationship between themselves, the federal government, and ourselves. And I'm wondering whether the health inspection services are provided in, exactly the same way, mostly the same way, or in a kind of a really unique fashion that respects their culture, their relationship with the bigger community. Can you comment on that, or Andrew or yourself?
Yeah, so I think it's something that really there's a case by case element. So we do work with Indigenous businesses, and sometimes they're quite interesting. There's sometimes they don't fall in exactly the sort of normal businesses. So our inspectors will spend quite a bit of time sort of working with those operators to try and understand how best that can operate and work. There is the additional complication of work as well as to whether or not they are on reserve or off. But of course, a lot of businesses are not necessarily on reserve, or they may operate in sell through other venues as well. So there's certainly connection in those spaces, and I would say it's something that got quite a bit of work goes into trying to understand what those businesses want to operate and want to achieve, and we obviously work with them as much as possible to make that happen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Kevin?
So when it comes to, you're saying whether it's federal, provincial, where do we get involved in it? How do we get involved in the raw milk dispute?
Ron.
Wrong.
Michael Schmidt,
Right.
how,
Excuse me, Madam Chair, I think we need to be careful about the specifics of this conversation. It's an interesting question, but it is, it's not the nature of our board to get into specifics.
So we shouldn't.
let me rephrase.
But I think the raw milk situation can affect a lot more than that one. Is that fair?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I can simplify this. So there was involvement from the health unit in a major, I think it was a lawsuit for multiple years, so it's not, that part is not private. But regardless, I agree that, it's just easier to speak about raw milk and its legislation. So there is a role for public health to anything local. And there is the Milk Act that's specific for the milk and our own milk and how it is distributed. And anytime for personal consumption, obviously that's private business, so we don't get involved in it. But if there are complaints to distribution or sale of raw milk, it is the local authority that would investigate that. And because it crosses the borders of health units, sometimes the province get involved in it. And if it is packaged or if it is on a national level, then the CIFA usually is involved as well. And the three agencies or the three levels of involvement is well coordinated. I can turn it to Andy. He was here in the health unit. I wasn't when the lawsuit was active, and I think it was a very time-consuming process for many years.
It was, yeah. Multi-agency response, as Dr. Ara said, our component of it is that the HPPA also has language in there in terms of preventing the not just the sale, but also the distribution of raw milk. So there was a component there that we're involved with, yeah.
okay. Yeah. Don't hold your breath, it may be back.
And the only question I somewhat had, it goes back to the drinking water, is drinking water source protection, which is covered by Great Fauble and the Saugeen Valley. How does the health unit interact with that? Or is there an overlap there, or it's two totally different things?
So we are connected, as are all healthiness connected in the sort of, at a sort of staff level or formal level. In Grey Bruce as well, we do actually have a chair at Source Water Protection Committee, so there is that sort of connection through as the health representative in Grey Bruce. So I would say we have a very strong connection to Source Water Protection.
Thank you.
Don't forget North Bruce Peninsula. They're part of that.
Yes, they are. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, then the recommendation is that medical officer, oh, sorry, you still call respiratory. We have another one. I won't jump in. I'll let you finish what you're doing.
Yeah, so we do also have the fall respiratory season vaccination update. And the report provides an update on the provincial plans to prevent serious illness this respiratory season from the publicly funded immunisation programme. The Ontario government is working to enhance the influenza virus, COVID-19 and RSV immunisation programmes to provide optimal protection to high-risk individuals. And there have been some changes specifically really or particularly to the RSV immunisation. So the key points, the vaccine preventable disease team focus on prevention of influenza, coronavirus and RSV this fall season. The updated information on influenza and COVID-19 are expected by the end of September 24, and I believe we may have received it yesterday. And then the older adult and infant RSV programs will proceed this fall. The significant change, as I mentioned, is with the infant RSV program, where a new product has become available that gives better protection and also it is better lasting, so it actually lasts through the RSV season. So because of that, there's been some changes in eligibility, and we hope to obviously offer better protection to that vulnerable age group.
Thank you. Any questions from anyone? Helen Claire. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Dr. Ara. Dr. Ara, I'm beginning to see some sort of fear-inducing headlines about the new COVID strain and the dangers. And as some media tends to do, it really is quite inflammatory and upsetting. I'm just wondering, it hasn't been an issue on our agenda for a long time. It's deemed not to be problematic. And I just wondered if you could speak a little bit to your sense of the new strains and how they are being managed and the possible threat, just for anybody watching this or listening, so that it could perhaps, hopefully anyway, make them feel better about that threat. Thank you.
Sure.
Through you, Madam Chair, excellent question. Again, it brings an important subject to the public here. The bottom line to it, CDC, the Center of Disease Control in the United States, a very credible organization, declared a few weeks ago that COVID is common cold. And COVID-19 is one of the corona family members. And corona family has 4 other types that affect humans known as common cold. The importance of it was novel, so people don't have immunity to it, and it went through the stage where more variants are weaker and weaker. I do believe my own bias from my own assessment of the data. When Omicron hit, that was when COVID did us a very good favor. Omicron was a very weak variant, and many people got infected by Omicron, but most of them didn't die because of Omicron. If they died with Omicron. Again, that was 2 years ago, 2022. And 3 months after Omicron, the data was very clear. Many long-term care were infected. The whole floor would be infected and almost nobody would die. And if they died, they really died with terminal cancer or something else. So again, at this stage, 2 years after, I'm not very concerned about COVID. Unless a person has heart disease, lung disease, or comorbidities, or of age or immunity conditions that would make common cold, is a concern, or not, that's the only concern that I'd go with. Not sure if that answers the question, Holly, but
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, now I will move on to the recommendation that the medical officer of health updates be received by the Board of Health for information. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Ellen Claire and Ken? With no further discussion, I will call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Moving on to corporate services for the financial report. Yeah.
Through you, Madam Chair, this is the July 2024 financial update. So as of July 31st, we had a cumulative surplus of $285,000. The senior central surplus is still sitting on the 100,000 mark. And our mandatory program surplus decreased to 206,000. Year to date, our funding is aligned with our budgeted expectations. For our salaries and benefits, they continue to be under budget due to vacancies and gapping in a handful of positions, and we have multiple recruitments that are currently underway. The wage savings from that gapping was partially offset by an accrual for additional benefit costs. So we received a mid-year projection from our brokers, identifying that year-to-date premiums that we could pay versus utilization was in a deficit, so we have accounted for that deficit on our books. And then we'll have to look to adjust our premiums in 2025 to more closely align to what the benefits are costing us. For our operating expenses, most operating lines continue to be under budget, notably our PD, materials and supplies, and IT equipment. At the end of August, I reached out to each manager asking for a plan for how they plan to utilize their remaining budget dollars. And from there, we can identify what will not be spent so we can reshift or prioritize some projects that some teams may want to start. So that's currently underway. For the capital projects, the Washington Dental Clinic is now open and operational. We have been corresponding with the ministry throughout, giving them updates on the status of the project. So we've communicated to them that the project is now complete, and we're just waiting to get confirmation of funding for the project.
Excellent. And that Washington Dental Clinic is absolutely beautiful. We've got a tour of it. Any comments or questions for you?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ms. Rutherford, for those comments. I continue to be impressed about how close the actual and the budget hang together. There, it's well done. The question that I would ask is if the board is able to get a high-level report on our, the comparison between what our strategic goals were, and, you've addressed the managers about how we're going to do that. Is there, and I'm hopeful that that's okay, let's see if we can't get these strategic goals done, these things that we had planned. Is there some sort of I hate to call it a checklist, but it's kind of a checklist. Yeah, this was our goal in January was this, and we've got it done. We're pretty much done. Are we able to see that to identify, as we come up to budget next time, about the aggressive nature of our strategic plan goals, or whether we need to, can we get a sense of that balance where we're at as far as encouraging staff, but not expecting too much, but we're pushing you, but pushing you nicely. Is that a capability to generate some sort of a report like that? Is that something that just goes to senior management? I don't know. I would like to see like an overview, whether it's $18 or 26, I don't care. But basically speaking, are we on line with achieving the strategic goals and plans that we had for 2020? That's all I'm asking.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I can take a stab at it. The question, if I understand it well, it touches base on many things, but basically the strategic goal that we set 2022 and we continue to work through, are they being achieved. There is a committee, internal committee is the strategic implementation committee, and their mission is to ensure that the progress of the project is being achieved, or if not achieved, what we can do more. We do report to the board frequently about them, like the last meeting, I think we reported on I'm blocking on the name, the matrix projects, and there are 5 of them. So those are the strategic goals, basically, more or less. And we will continue to do this. We did it monthly for the first year and then quarterly. And now this committee is coming to the senior management function. So the committee is dissolved after everything was set for 2 years. Now the senior management meets every quarter to ensure that the strategic goals are progressing as appropriate. And I do believe that it's Shimer, the other senior manager, is working with the foundation standards. That's the department that looks at indicators to make sure that the indicators of progress are consistent with the standard, are consistent with what we planned 2 years ago. So yes, there is definitely a plan for all of this.
Yeah.
It's reported to the board in different channels. Like one of them, if you look at the report at the bottom of Andy's report, you would find the strategic goals and how this is being, how this report is related to the Board Health Strategic Plan language. For example, for the vaccine, it was number 3 to improve the health through reducing preventable disease in England. So again, it's being presented in different ways, and there will be 1 or 2 sessions during the year, including presentation about the strategic plan and where we're at.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, then the recommendation is that the financial report for July 2024 be received by the Board of Health for information. Have a mover and seconder, please. Sue and Brian, if you have any questions, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. The only item we have is what we deferred back here, Dr. You want to speak to that one?
Certainly, and if I may just add a late comment on the previous item on the budget. We do present to the board many items and a lot of successes. One of them is the SOS award to Oak Rivers. And sometimes I try to the best of my ability to give the credit to everybody who's involved, and the administrative part of the organization, finance, HR, IT, do an amazing work in ensuring that those successes take place. And usually they don't have enough credit, or they don't not given enough credit for it because of the disconnection, because they're not at the front of the work of it. But there definitely are the departments that are making things run very well in this space. So I just want to thank him and all of them.
Thank you.
Regarding 7.2, Madam Chair, it's just an item to recognize the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation within Indigenous children and residential field. And it would be my honor to speak to it. Nick is not here. Public health at its core is about ensuring the health and the activity of communities. And we all know that the Indigenous communities have different trajectory in the past and in history to ensuring better health. And now we do have the opportunity and the recognition and awareness, and hopefully the reconciliation. I always mention that the word reconciliation is not accurate. Just really means to repeat something, but reconciliation really never happened in the past to reconciliate. However, it's the minimum we can do for adding an item and recognize missing children specifically as a father of 2, as an uncle to little children. Any harm to a child that is preventable is a tragedy, and let alone a generation of children, and how that's going to affect their community. And again, we're here to do our best to do that conciliation and go forward to our future for home election.
Thank you. And I would note here that Nick had asked to speak to this, but we will assume that something has come up that he's not able to be here with us today. So the recommendation here is that Board of Health recognizes the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation and Missing Indigenous Children in Residential Schools for information. So I could have a mover and a seconder on that one. Chris and Chad, any further comments or questions on that one? Kevin?
Municipally, we usually do this as a proclamation to call it. Would it be even more significant if we move that just a little bit further than just recognizing it? Through the Board of Health making their proclamation that, you know, I don't know whether to put more emphasis on it or, but this is, we've just received it for we've received it for information. This leaves me a little bit with the Indigenous community.
We're making a gesture, but we're not really.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
I appreciate the comment, but my question, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, is about process and whether the board has the procedural bylaw that we can even do that, or,
Yeah.
It's like I would refer to Dr. Era, like information is one thing, endorsing it is the next step, but perhaps, like, I agree that we should push it up the ladder as far as we can go, but it is, if we can't proclaim it because we can't proclaim it, then let's not do that and go somewhere where we can't go. That's my only concern.
Well, Claire?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I would suggest rather than us just moving things up through different words to make a statement or to indicate our sort of morality around these things, perhaps it would be a great idea to put it forward to the next agenda and allow Mr. Saunders to speak on this issue, since unfortunately he's not here today. So we are gathered around this table as non-Indigenous people. He had indicated that he wanted to speak. And so I'm just suggesting again, rather than just sort of, I think sometimes words are meaningless. So, we accept, we endorse, we purport, I don't know that these things really make a difference, but perhaps having the Indigenous colleague that we have who had indicated that he'd like to speak on this, if we could put that on the agenda for next time and have him speak. That would be my suggestion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I think the reason for it being on this one is because National Indigenous Day is coming up on Monday. But I'm certainly open to deferring and reaching out to Nick about that. So perhaps better than this recommendation is a motion to defer. Does everyone agree?
Yep.
I will call for someone to make that motion then. Beth and Helen Clark second.
So the question remains, what's the motion going to be?
Process.
We still receive next report, absolutely. We still choose to support it, but for information, for endorsement, for proclamation, like if there's some guidance next.
So I would
next month
suggest
for that.
we defer, and I noticed Dr. Era looking here, so perhaps Dr. Era would come back with what we can do along with Nick's report.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody's in agreement with that?
For sure.
Kevin?
Well, it was surprising because what was that? Correspondence. The first is a letter from the local public health association, Alpha. We endorsed that. We didn't receive it for information. We endorsed it.
Yeah.
That's, I guess, where my question comes.
Yeah.
We can endorse these things. How come we can't endorse or make a proclamation? And the fact that National Day of Truth and Reconciliation is on Monday. We're kicking it down the road for a month. What impact does that make?
Gives us another one.
Well, it gives us another month, but we've missed the whole thing.
I
Should it be a day?
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is it should be something that's recognized, doing work on
That's
it
significant.
throughout, but that's the day.
Yeah.
And if we kick it down, I guess my thought is we've kicked it down. We haven't done anything with it. We haven't recognized it. We haven't done, let's look at it next year. Recognize that day.
Okay, Dr. Eric has a comment and then I'll come to you, Beth.
Yeah.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'm thinking, one, we can recognize that it's happening next, Monday. We can keep it as a standing item, to update the board and the community on what our team is doing related to this. And third, to allow, the board member, Nick, to add more to what is being done, including initiative that he is working on as well. So whether it's monthly or quarterly, to be a standing item to come back to the board on. I'm sure that would capture all, they're not mutually exclusive, all.
Yeah.
Just a small point being that I think it was just out of respect to having Nick come to speak to it, that it was deferred. That was the point, is what I thought. Because it's personal, we do have a rep here. I think that that's where the deferring came, not in the fact that we were complacent. Okay?
I would agree with that. Thank you, Beth, that Nick had asked to speak to it, is unable to be here, so we're deferring that part of it until he can be here to speak to it. And I think you had another comment.
Can you read the motion that's on the floor, please?
Motion that's on the floor is to defer, is it not?
Yes, to defer to next month.
Yes, the motion is to defer the agenda item 7.2 to the next month's meeting.
So I'm, speaking to that, I'm in concurrence with, Mr. Eccles in that we shouldn't defer, we should endorse it, and we should just allow Nick to come and speak to it next month. I think the timing is of value, and endorsing it rather than receiving it, do what we know we can do as best we can do and still allow in a reasonable framework, however the board decides to have, ongoing updates from, member Saunders to, and Dr. Ayer and the team, but this is how we're working in that regard, so.
Okay, so we're now going to have to go back to the fact that we do have a motion on the floor.
Absolutely.
We would have to vote that one down and then put another motion on the floor. So motion.
You could have them withdraw.
Just want me to withdraw, fine.
Okay, Helen Claire, are you okay with that being withdrawn? Okay. So the new motion that you would like to have on the floor, Ken, is to?
Endorse the information we've received about the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation.
Okay.
And, yeah, that's it. And then there's direction to the chair about, Mr. Saunders' presentation next month and ongoing.
Ken?
Would that be an amendment? Because the motion is on the floor to receive it, right?
Now they withdrew.
No, they
Motion to
withdrew the
defer.
deferred.
Oh, I
We
see.
already had formally,
Yeah.
yes.
So just procedurally, I would second Mr. Craig and use Mr. Ken.
My good friend, Mr. Eccleston.
If Ken wants to put it in as an amendment to endorse, not to just receive,
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
that amendment I would second.
Okay. I will call that vote then if there's no other discussion on it. All in favor? Carried, and then back to the main motion, all in favor there as well. That is carried. Okay, we only have one more adjournment. We have done.
Adjourn.
Am I allowed to just adjourn? Some meetings, the chair is just allowed to announce it's adjourned. Perfect.
If all business on the agenda is completed, yes.
We're adjourned.